Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to week 4 preview of college football time with Avery Miguel. I am Miguel Mike Medina. This is Avery Jones. Avery, how's it going?
It is wonderful. Another great week for college football. And there are a lot of interesting matchups this weekend. Let's hit it.
Yes. There's a lot of good matchups, a lot of intriguing ones. We might not get through all of them, but let's see how far we can go. The first one, Illinois versus Indiana. Number 9 versus number 19. Listen to this, Avery. This is the first time since 1950 that both teams haven't had a matchup, a meeting against one another where they're both ranked. That is insanity. Insanity. Both coaches, they've done a great job with their programs. Both teams are 3-0. The winner will continue to rise in the ranks. And, the last time they had a meeting was in 2023, in which Illinois won 48-45. Omar Cooper has been the best receiver for the Hoosiers. As for Illinois, Luke Altmaier has thrown over 700 yards. He's been performing well this season. Hank Beatty has been the go-to guy wide receiver for him. Fernando Mendoza has been off to a solid start for Indiana. So I'm looking forward to this matchup, Avery. Illinois, they haven't had a consecutive 10-win seasons, and they have a chance to do that this year for the first time in their team history. Take it from there.
Yeah, this is a great matchup because on paper it sounds like a basketball matchup. And we've said this before, when you have some programs that are more or less kind of the showcase of a certain school and other parts of their athletic program are becoming more prevalent, this is when it can get interesting. Illinois and Indiana have great basketball programs. We talk about them every March Madness. So when you have Indiana and Illinois both ranked, both teams have been doing very well for the past couple of years. I think this is a great matchup. And another reason it's a great matchup, this is a prime time matchup. Usually these prime time matchups at 7, 7:30 in the evening have a tendency to be very interesting. Now, you have Indiana as a favorite, 62.8% versus 37.2%. But I think this could be really interesting for Indiana to showcase that they are a fascinating football team that you cannot take advantage of. Kind of like we mentioned, the Georgia Techs of, a conference, the South Floridas of the conference. You cannot overlook the great gameplay, the heart of the men who are on these two teams, the Hoosiers and the Fighting Illini. So, as generally, I like to go against the grain on this one, but I think Indiana has all the weapons and playing at home. Also, this being a primetime game that it's gonna work in their favor. The over under is 52 and a half. So I do kind of see this to be a bit of a shootout game. So I'm going to go with Indiana on this one. I'm going to go with a bit of a high scoring game. I'm going to go Indiana 35, Illinois 27.
Fair enough. I think this will be a high scoring game in my opinion. I do have Indiana winning this game by a close margin. I have them winning 37 to 31. 37 to 31. So, but I can't wait. This is gonna be a good one. The game will be at 7:30 Eastern time. So Indiana has, they haven't forgot what happened last year.
No.
Nobody want to give them the respect that they deserve. Kurt Signetti is the one who really is fed up with all the negative talk about them. So this is week 4. So if you what a way to make a statement if you beat a good team like Illinois. But I'm moving on, Avery. Number 17 Texas Tech versus number 16 Utah
Yes.
UTs.
Yes.
I am so looking forward to this one. Big 12 conference matchup. Utah are 3.5 favorites in this game. Utah is trying to write a different script this year, Avery. Last year they went 0 for 4 at home against Big 12 matchups, Big 12 teams. Utah has a very good defense. I like their defense. And so far they're off to a solid start. The Red Raiders, in my opinion, they're the more complete team compared to the two. I feel that the Red Raiders will come out victorious in this game. I like Utah, but if I have to pick one, I'm gonna go with Texas on this one. And they haven't allowed points in the first half of the season, so and it's gonna be a challenge for them because they're going up against Utah and a very good defensive team. So let's see what happens there. Red Raiders quarterback Baron Morton, he might have something to say about that Utah's defense. He's gonna try to challenge them, so that's something to look forward to. The last time the Red Raiders they got to a 4-0 start, the last time that happened was back in 2013. So we're talking about 12 years. It's been 12 years. So, but this is one of my favorite matchups of this week. I had Texas Tech winning 27-23.
That's a very close score, and I can get behind that. Utah for the past few years have always started off really strong, even making the statement of being in the playoff picture, the national title picture, if you will. We mentioned it before. Utah Stadium is one of those difficult stadiums to play in. So playing at home for Utah could help in their way of making sure their players are excited, they are invigorated, that they can take down the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Another good thing, we're talking about Utah's defense, and it is very good. Another thing that Utah, for many years, have always had is a really great offensive line. So when you have a quarterback who is playing for Utah, they usually have a really good offensive line, so the quarterback trusts that they're not going to get sacked like every, second or third play. Utah is favored 65% versus Texas Tech 35%. Over under is 56. This could be kind of like this underrated shootout game, but at the same time, I look to see both quarterbacks take some long distance chances to get that big play to get their team uh excited, to get them enhanced for the game that is going to be. This is and it kind of right there on paper, like we say, when certain teams play, it helps. This is a high noon game. This is a high noon kickoff, high noon shootout. So I see this for both teams. You know what? I'm gonna go with Utah on this one. Utah has played some really great football, and I see them to continue on, their slow and steady pace of working their way up in the poll to look to see if they can get that top 12, possibly, conference title to get in the playoff picture. For this one, I'm gonna go with Utah 27, Texas Tech 23.
Yes, this was one of those matchups that I had to wrestle a lot because I like both teams, and you just have to pick one. And Utah is well coached. Coach has been there for several years now. So, but I wouldn't be mad if Utah wins. So it's one of those things where you know what, whoever wins between the two, I'm completely fine with that. But at the end of the day, I want Arizona State um to remain that belt. Um, so it's a high noon game, 12 p.m. So hopefully that's a good one. Next up, Auburn versus Oklahoma. Another good one. The spread is 6.5. I believe that for Auburn, first of all, Auburn is one of those teams that they struggle on the road. They struggle on the road. I'm concerned about their pass defense in this game. I feel that Eric Singleton Jr. is one of the biggest X factors for Auburn for them to have success in this game. So he can stretch the field. He has incredible speed. So Auburn will need to have a big game from him. But I think I'm gonna go with Oklahoma on this one. I'm gonna say Oklahoma 34-24. Oklahoma.
That's interesting. Now the spread is 6.5, so it's possible that, Oklahoma could take this, but it's interesting because Auburn is an undefeated team and just sitting at 22, it doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem right. But Oklahoma has had a very good year so far. Their win against Michigan is a statement win. They're sitting at 11. They want to keep that momentum, working their way up in the conference. And you're right. Auburn for a few years has had some really great starts, and then they kind of falter, once conference play kind of takes its hold on teams. And this is where we're getting into it. Week 4, week 5, conference games are going to be starting to be the norm. Oklahoma is favored 65.3% versus Auburn 34.7. They're playing in Norman. I mean, when you're playing at home, we've said this, when you're playing at home and some of these places are just so iconic college football staples. So I do look for Auburn to stay toe to toe with Oklahoma. They want to be taken seriously. They want to be taken seriously, and considering how they're playing right now, it's working in their favor. You know, there's not a lot of talk of Auburn. So, kind of like Oregon, they're kind of just sitting there minding their own business. And when it's time to play football, they're gonna play football. With the over under being 45, this could be like a shootout, but at the same time a defensive game for both teams. I'm going to go a little bit lower on that one as well. So I'm going to say I'm going to go with Oklahoma on this one. I think their work ethic is good right now, and like I said, their game with Michigan kind of solidified them as, if you're going to come to our house, if you're going to try and make a name for yourself, you have to beat us, and you have to beat us well. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma on this one, and I'm going to give it the touchdown treatment. I'm going to go Oklahoma 28, Auburn 21.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So here are some of the honorable mentions for that have potential to be great games for this weekend. Oregon State versus Oregon, which will be at 3 p.m. We have Michigan versus Nebraska. That could be one of those potential upset alert games. Another one that intrigues me, and I hope that they get the win because I don't see them going on 3, and I'll feel bad. And that is Purdue versus Notre Dame. And Purdue is a good team. They're no scrubs, so Notre Dame got to be careful. The upside is that they will be playing at home at 3:30, and that's a tradition. Notre Dame 3:30 NBC Peacock. So I smile every time when I think about Notre Dame Saturday 3:30 p.m. NBC. Well, now it's NBC and Peacock.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's always like it's one of those things that just brings a lot of nostalgia to me. So there's that one. There's also of course, the Battle of Florida Gators, Miami Hurricanes, which will be at 7:30 p.m. And last but not least, I'm gonna give them a benefit of the doubt, which have potential to be a good game. Um, depending how things go, and that is South Carolina versus Missouri, which is also at 7.
Yeah, according to reports, Sellers is it's probably that he's not going to start for South Carolina, but he is very optimistic. And this is as of 7 p.m. Thursday evening. So, if it works out, he comes in, that could be a good shot in the arm for South Carolina, but this could be the opportunity for Missouri. Um, my couple of honorable mentions, SMU and TCU. SMU had that, really great game against Baylor. So I look for them to go to TCU and remind them, hey, we belong in the playoff talk. Another one, which it may not seem it, but I'm telling you, some of these teams, you never know. Tulane at Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a really great game. Lane Kiffin is probably one of the most unserious head coaches in college football, but I like how he is invigorating his team. And Ole Miss is 13 right now. They cannot afford any mistakes. Tulane, they started off the season with Northwestern. They're this team that again, don't take it, don't count them out. Don't count them out. So Tulane going into Ole Miss. Uh Hopefully Ole Miss is prepared to play this really good football team. Another one kind of flying underneath the radar, North Carolina and University of Central Florida. I know all the talk is about South Florida and Miami. Um, Central Florida is hosting North Carolina, and of course, Bill Belichick working his magic for the North Carolina Tar Heels. So, those are my honorable mentions, and the last one, another 12 p.m. game that should be intriguing, Syracuse versus Clemson. Clemson has a problem. Clemson has a problem, kind of like Florida has a problem. But I've said it many times. Dabo Sweeney figures out a way to invigorate his team, to let his team know that they can be one of those elite teams in their conference. Syracuse has been playing some really great football as well. They were in it for Tennessee at the beginning of the season, and they're kind of just hanging in there. But that's another team game starts at 12 o'clock. So, some 12 o'clock games might need to be switching back and forth to keep an eye on. But those are my honorable mentions for tomorrow as well. And like I said, you can't count out any team. You cannot count out any team because, like we said, it any given Saturday, you could be watching that really great football game, and all of a sudden you're surprised when you come back to work over the weekend.
And speaking of Dabo Sweeney, I was gonna end this episode with that. So recently, he has made some headlines, um, going on a rant towards the media, defending his team, defending on the recent offensive struggles, and you know, there's been stuff thrown out there that Alabama's head coaching position, he could be the the next head coach for that team, but this is the thing. Like when it comes to already after week 1 and week 2, people want to take things out of proportion and think that is all over. But yes, it was a crushing loss to Georgia Tech, and it's you know fair to think, okay, because this be the last hurrah for Clemson and their years of reign of terror, I should say. But that was Sweeney. He's one of those coaches that I have faith in him. He, I see him as having a lot more years left in the tank in terms of coaching. He is one of the greatest leaders in college football from a head coaching standpoint. So we will have to see how they're going to respond against Syracuse because Syracuse, that's a very good team. That's a good team. So I completely forgot about that one. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Clemson, Syracuse, that should be interesting. Um, but yeah, Dabo Sweeney, he really brought the house down. I mean, first it was Brian Kelly and now him. So hey, at least they're giving us something to.
Absolutely.
I find that entertaining in my opinion. So
And you know what? I've kind of mentioned this, just like I mentioned about Lane Kiffin kind of being an unserious head football coach. But here's the thing, you can be unserious and you can be absolutely proud of your team. If you know your team is giving 200%, if you know they're giving everything, if you know that the young men who, let's say, they've grown up in the area and they've always wanted to play for, your Ole Misses, your Auburns, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your South Carolinas, they're gonna give you everything, your LSU's. So Dabo Sweeney's been at the helm, I think, nearly 10 years now, probably. Same thing. Shane Beamer at South Carolina. There's another coach. He he's getting these players to come to the school to not just play football. And I've said this again. I'm gonna say it till people are sick of hearing it. When a head coach can get a player, not just because they're good, when they can get them to play for their school and give their all, not just for their education, but also the opportunity to play professionally, these coaches are going to be behind their players. They're going to support their players. So when you have coaches go off on the media to support their team, that's a good thing. It may seem like rhetoric, or it may seem like, oh, coach is too emotional. By all means, be emotional. You stand up for your men. We've kind of had this idea of college football and football in general for a while, that these young men are like brainless and have no, all their passion is just for football. No, no, no. We have coaches that have helped young men transform their lives, not just on the football field, but away from the football field as well. So, to the Dabo Sweeneys, the Shane Beamers, the Brian Kellys, um, even the Deion Sanders, Eddie Georges, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job because we want to hear what you have to say, and that could change our mindset of not just being college football fans, but also being a fan of how you want these young men to continue on with life. Because and a lot of these young men already know, if professional football is not in the game plan, you have talked with them about other aspects that they can do with their life. So, you know, we can make all the assumptions we want to, but when you have head coaches that are absolutely invested in their team, if it's a rant that gives their team a shot in the arm, I'm here for it.
and with that, we wrap up this week 4 preview of college football time with Avery Miguel. We will see you guys on Monday as we give our guys our recap and reaction to these matchups of week 4. So have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe and may God bless each and every one of you. Avery, take care of yourself, and hopefully we have ourselves a satisfying weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone. College football. Yes.